It's official. Luxury is dead. RIP to a real one. I'm sure you've seen a lot of headlines like that in the past couple months, honestly. And a lot of it has always kind of seemed like cope to me. But I think there has been just a general feeling, kind of a vibe shift that like luxury isn't what it used to be, luxury fashion anyway, and that people are kind of moving on. This year in particular, I saw tons and tons of people talking about like no buys and things I'm no longer spending money on and things like that. And I think it's a combination of factors that are going on. Real quick, my name's Matt. I make videos about fashion. If you would, give me a like and a subscribe while you're here, and let's get into it. So obviously there's a lot of economic pressure going on right now. Inflation has kind of run rampant, and luxury fashion always kind of goes up and up as time goes on, but they've been really pushing the boundaries. And when people are already strapped for things like they can't buy eggs, it really makes it a lot harder for them to justify spending money on luxury goods. So that was the pressure put in place already. But I think what we're seeing in general is more high level than that, and honestly more sort of a vibe shift and a philosophy shift than anything. If you flash back just a couple of years ago, the pandemic was kind of this huge boom. I've talked about it a little bit before with like sneakers taking off. A lot of people had tons of time on their hands. People had more money than they used to with the PPP loans and things like that. So people were sitting around their house, flush with cash, nowhere to spend it other than just buying things online. And also, it wasn't just that, but it was a convergence of time where fashion was becoming more, or luxury fashion was becoming more democratized. I honestly think Virgil Abloh had a huge hand in this because he kind of made what used to be this like super exclusive thing, he kind of injected streetwear into it and made it like a thing for everybody. So all of a sudden you had a bunch of people who weren't buying luxury before getting into it. It changed the demographics in a way that I think we're finally just starting to back out of because of economic pressure and because the story of luxury fashion has kind of been watered down in a way. And so I was reading an article from Business of Fashion by Eugene Rabkin. It's called "The Big Luxury Simulation is Over." I'll link it in the description. I recommend checking it out. But kind of going along with this, there was news last week that Loro Piana is now under court administration for labor practice violations. I'm gonna probably get this wrong, but they were like using shell companies in Italy to basically contract out to like sweatshops in China. So like it looked like they were doing stuff in Italy, but they were actually like, using Chinese labor or just, bad labor practices in general. Allegedly non-actionable. So now they're under court review for all this stuff. And this is like on the heels of like a Dior, I think it was Dior last year. Dior definitely was in trouble for their bags being reported as being much cheaper, but I think they also got in trouble for labor practices, don't quote me. But all of this plays into the story of what luxury is. And if we're buying something that is an insane price, let's just say that, everyone can acknowledge that a cardigan does not need to cost like $1,000. You can get them at Target for $10, and that comes with its own set of problems. But surely the luxury one should be on the high end of purchasing decisions that you can make, that you can trust is well made, has good materials, has a story to it and a heritage, and is made ethically and sustainably. And I think bit by bit, these things have really crumbled over time. And the Loro Piana thing it's just, that brand in particular is funny to me because they're not like Dior is one thing. Even Dior. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like if I found out that Balmain was like using unethical practice, or like Dolce & Gabbana was using like sweatshops, I'd be like, yeah, I believe it. But Loro Piana is like such an understated, elevated brand, It's quiet luxury. You don't even know. You gotta know to know, For them, all about like heritage and craft and their materials and all this stuff, to be exploiting labor, it's not funny, but it's like kind of funny. That really unravels the whole narrative around this thing because there is no good labor practices. I've seen stories come into play about the sustainability of all this stuff. None of it means anything. It's all greenwashing. Oh, vegan leather. Well, you mean plastic. Or even companies like I saw some comments about Aritzia. I was going to make a whole video just about Aritzia, that they have like sustainability goals, but they're not hitting them or anything. They're just like, yeah, we aim to be sustainable someday. So sustainability also gets thrown out the window. Quality, honestly, there are brands that are quality. You're never going to get 100% of the time. There's always going to be some horror story, but a lot of the brands that actually do focus on quality will like make an effort to make it better, especially if you make a big stink of it. I've mentioned this before, but like I've seen people on the Rick Owens sub, their shoes break after like 3 wears. That's insane for a pair of $1,000 to $2,000 shoes. It's like at that point, when all of this starts to go away, you really are And I know this is like a tired thing to say, but you really are just buying a name and a logo. And for some of us, that's enough. Like, I won't lie. I've never owned like a monogram thing before this year, and I bought 3 monogram sweaters just because I was feeling myself, and I was like, you know what? Let's put Balenciaga on this sweater all over the place. It's a pure flex. And I think we just need to stop lying to ourselves about it. So in terms of how this is affecting the fashion industry in general, I'll read a little bit more from this article. That the post-COVID luxury boom has given way to a sharp downturn in demand is not simply a reflection of macroeconomic pressures. A combination of soaring prices and declining quality has left many consumers feeling their intelligence is being insulted, which suggests symbols of luxury still need to be anchored in tangible value to command steep sums. So that's essentially what I'm saying here, is that if you're going to expect us to pay that much, you got to give us a little bit more than just the logo. It's not that people no longer want the symbols of luxury, but those symbols have to be grounded in great product to be believable. And if the entire luxury industry has become a simulacrum, where the symbol is hollow, there is little difference between the real and its copy. So they're talking a little bit about like super fakes there, and yeah, I've seen people say that the fakes their fakes are better constructed than their real ones. I think I saw that talking about a Chanel bag, which again is insane because Chanel bags are like thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's why I think you're seeing the rise of like Coach is coming back. I think you're seeing the rise of like the mid-tier brand because A, no one can afford the upper echelons, and B, they're recognizing that it's actually not that better, and in many cases is actually worse, or at least on par with something like Coach. It's funny, you kind of see a similar thing happening in like other industries like food service. Like everyone's complaining about how expensive fast food is now. So like you're seeing like Chili's have a huge moment, like the fast casual dining is back, baby, because it was more targeting that like mid-tier, maybe even lower mid-tier. But in that same way, like I'm not saying go out and buy a bunch of Shein. That's bad too. What I'm saying is I think we as consumers need to be a lot more discerning about what we're actually buying, because there are those brands, they're few and far between, and you have to do a lot of research to figure out if they're worth it. What I find particularly interesting, going back to the Aritzia thing, is like I see a lot of brands like COS or Aritzia or like Aloe, for God's sake, that command a relatively high price point, but when you boil it all down are basically just fast fashion. And my real problem is when I'm seeing some of these things like Loro Piana that are like basically just fast fashion too. Like what's the real difference if you're using sweatshops? You're like slow you're worse than fast fashion in a way because you don't even have the fast part down. What's interesting about all of it is that it's not just price point, because you are seeing, like, I think they even note here, so like LVMH is struggling right now. I think they had something like a 2-digit decline in sales, something like that. LVMH is facing challenges across key units, from layoffs at Hennessy to falling sales at Dior. Jonathan Anderson is obviously, they're hoping he's going to give it a shot in the arm there. But what's interesting is that not all of the like high tier price point fashion houses are struggling. Like Prada Group is actually doing very well. I think a lot of that's carried by Miu Miu, but Miu Miu is not cheap either. So I think this again just speaks to that idea of like having an actual story to tell and some quality to back it up. Prada does a very good job with that. A lot of their ad campaigns that they got right now are about like saving the oceans. You know what I mean? So they've got the sustainability angle. I think people are still seeing that the quality's there, even though I think the prices are insane for nylon. And actually, interestingly, so a little while ago, people were talking about how Burberry was struggling, but Burberry actually just beat sales expectations. I think they were actually still bad. Yeah, comparable retail sales fell by 1% in the first quarter, but that's better than it was. Like they were falling off a cliff, and they've kind of turned the ship around. And their CEO or president or whatever came out just a little bit ago and said like, yeah, we tried to raise prices too high and too fast. So that's an admission right there that like they can't be doing that, you know? So where does it go from here? I think you're gonna see more people paying attention to smaller brands, more mid-tier brands, and being maybe a little bit more disconcerting. I don't think the desire to buy luxury fashion or luxuries in general is going away. I have seen jewelry is doing really well, so they may also be like shifting their perspective a little bit. Like they've got enough clothes, they've got enough bags. Let's buy something with some real, actual, tangible value. And also the value of gold is doing well from what I understand. So that makes sense. But I think you're gonna see, honestly, like I should do some more videos about some up and coming, like just up and coming brands in general, but some Japanese brands I think are doing really well, some up and coming ones there. Like a real reorientation, refocus on craft and like quality and like heritage brands that aren't the flashiest, but do really well, make really nice stuff that's actually going to last a while, I think that's what you're going to start to see. I feel kind of bad because, you know, with LVMH, like Louis Vuitton is also apparently not doing terrifically. I think Pharrell's kind of been killing it. Like I've really liked a lot of the past couple collections. Their most recent one might have been their best one yet. And Pharrell himself, I really respect. I think he's done a really great job for a non-designer. He's just got such a cool life. I want Pharrell's life. Somebody hook me up with that. Anyway, bit of a grab bag of thoughts today, but I kind of wanted to comment on all these things I'm seeing with the industry. Be sure to subscribe if you like this kind of thing, and I'll be sure to make more of them, but otherwise, have a good one. Peace, guys.